this real quick. Am I sounding okay, guys?
You are.
Sound great.
All right. Don, give us a hello, hello, hello.
Hello, hello, hello.
Get a little closer to the mic there, Don.
Hello, 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 hello.
Yeah, you could probably turn your gain up just a hair.
Okay, how about now? Hello.
Well, yeah, you sound good. Dave, you already sound good. Jason, let me hear you one more time.
All right, hang on. Let me finish chewing bacon.
Nope, you're
Can
good.
you hear me? Can you hear me chew?
Mark, can I hear you one more time?
Otis here was a mean kid.
He was a mean kid.
2, 1, 0.
You're listening to the Knives Templars.
Get ready, y'all. We about to Bobby Boucher you. Bam!
I got a piece off of the wagon that Sam Houston used to take JFK to the moon.
Pinto sauce. I like that. Pinto sauce.
Pinto sauce.
You're tuned in to the Knives Templars podcast, featuring Otis Sear Special Sauce Pinto.
I was a mean kid.
Long time listener, first time caller.
Eric T.R.E. Rivers.
Holy crap, I built something.
Don the Train Watson.
I can pay off all my credit cards and beef jerky credit line at Buc-ee's.
Joey the Riot Terrier.
Cochon de lait will make you smack your lips and anyone getting too close to your plate.
Mark the Sallow.
You drinking my soupy?
And Chip Shegman Carlisle. And now broadcasting alive, it's the Knives Templars. Coming to you live from Porkhouse Studios located in Hartselle, Alabama and other U.S. locations. This is the Knives Templars podcast. We are the coolest knife-making podcast on the planet, and we are downloaded around this big blue marble in over 24 countries. We are on air, on demand, and heard worldwide in all of your favorite apps and at knivestemplars.com. .com. The man said .com. I like the way I say that. You know, guys, I gotta change this opening. We've got Big Hand Dave and Jason Fry on here tonight, and by gosh, they're full-fledged hosts now. And you can get any one of the 8 of us on these shows now, which keeps it mixed up and interesting. So
Do we get a raise with that promotion, Chip?
Yes. You can raise yourself up a little bit higher in that chair, but as we did with but as we did with our have your representative contact mine. I can tell them no as well. So anyway, you do not get any type of spending budget. Don't turn in any receipts to me if I buy you a burger. That's fine, but I will decline all expense reports that you do send in. That's all I got to say about that.
Sounds like a plan.
But welcome to the show. I mean, I know that your knife sales have increased exponentially, and I hear you can't keep the books in stock these days.
That would be an overstatement of reality, but yes, sales are all right. Things are going pretty
good. Well, I've got to update that intro to get these other guys in there, find something funny they've said and or interesting they've said, and hey, tonight could be your night. You could say something funny. And welcome to season 5, episode 42, and we are recording this on a special night. What's special about it tonight? It's Thursday. We usually do this on Friday, but 2 of us have to head to one to deer camp and one to deer tree on Friday night. So we want to thank you guys for getting on here with us tonight, and also kudos to Eric and Joey and Otis here who are tied up tonight. Not at the same place. Their wives tied them up separately and said, no, you're not doing the podcast on Thursday night. So anyway, I'm Chip Carlisle, your host, and joined by co-host Don Watson, Mark Vasallo, Jason Fry, and David Moore. And we'll start off with you, Don, since you said, hey.
Hey, how you doing?
Well, hey. How are you tonight? I noticed that beautiful new hat you got on there with the gators and knives. That says Don Watson Knives
hat.
Yeah, my daughter made that for me, so I thought that was pretty cool. I figured I'd wear it tonight.
Now, how old is your daughter, if you don't mind me asking?
She's 30. My God, man, I can't keep track of them. She's born in 86.
Okay, well she's 30 something and 30 something years, and she finally made you a gift that's just priceless.
Yeah, she
Or no,
made me do. She made me that too.
oh, she made you the cup. And did
Oh
she
yeah,
give you grandchildren?
yeah. I got 3 grandkids.
I think I just hold on to her. Sounds like she's a good
She's
girl.
a good girl, man. But both my daughters are outstanding, man.
Excellent,
Very
excellent.
creative too. Very
That's
creative.
good. That's good. Well, we know where they get it from. How's the Creo brew tonight?
Oh man, it is nice and creamy. Oh,
Yeah, I said Creo brew and
Yeah.
cow chow. Cow
Didn't say
chow, is that
cow.
it?
no, cacao,
Cacao.
cacao.
Cow chow. Don's
Cacao.
drinking cow chow and moo. And it's been popping up everywhere on my phone now that it thinks I need to order it. Those phones are something else.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Dave, Big Hand Dave Moore, David Moore. I hear I've seen you over the internet here lately. You've become your celebrity has been increasing out there. I've seen you chopping things and doing things.
Yeah, a few videos picked up by different things. Bad Word Head Steve, which is a meme, picked it up. It's a 4-letter word. You just put it in there. It rhymes with hit. So there you go. Also picked up by the Family Handyman. So that was kind of unique to be seen on a Family Handyman Facebook page, cutting wood.
Oh.
Well, anybody needs a tree cut down? Big Hand Dave is your Big Hand Dave's
right.
tree service.
There you
It's
go.
called training. Training.
Yeah, it's training. Have Blade will travel. Well, I saw the boys over at Pops were forwarding those videos around, and I forwarded them a few myself. Man, I don't know how you do it. And I'm telling you, I'm a safety engineer. You need Kevlar underwear on. If you're not wearing Kevlar underwear, at least get a Kevlar apron. You guys scare me to death.
That's why the hand's in the pocket in most of these videos. That's why the left hand is in the pocket. I probably catch the most crap about the videos about the left hand being in the pocket. Billie Eilish's brother actually did a spoof on my video by taking a kitchen chef knife and cutting up cucumbers or whatever he was cutting up with it, and had his hand in the pocket. So I'm like, yes, you've made it. And I can't really think of his name.
Yeah.
But it's Billie Eilish's brother.
Yeah. Well, Britney Spears was all over the internet this past week. She was dancing with knives the way Joey the Riot does.
That was scary. That was a little scary.
I feel sorry for the young lady. I'm not even going to make a joke out of her. I think that she's a victim of a lot of things with probably a little mental illness at that. So we just pray for Brittany. I know she's listening to the show. So Brittany, watch Big Hand Dave. At least put one hand in the pocket when you're doing those demi-plies with the knives. But yeah, seriously, that was kind of scary to watch. You're certainly right there. Jason Fry, the 33-hour man.
Yeah, that is not an exaggeration of reality. So I hopped on a plane yesterday, and I got home this morning on a different plane. Got to spend some quality time sleeping on the floor at the DFW airport, and rocked back home right into some meetings. And I stopped and inhaled some dinner, and now I'm with you guys. So if we
coordinate that if we coordinate that properly, you and I can have dinner in the at the DFW airport together. Yeah. But I will tell you this: I'm hoping to come to Blade Show in February. But also, so if I am, I'm going to set and sell my knife at your table again. Right. Just kidding, guys. I have to get your own table. But what do I have to say here? A good way to get a good meal at DFW is you go around and you collect the carts and you put them back in the machine, and it gives you the quarter back, and you collect all your change, and you go to Burger King and you get a sandwich and you eat. I saw Tom Hanks do that in the movie, and I thought that's pretty cool. Okay. You didn't see that movie. I don't know if anybody saw that movie because I've only seen clips of it on YouTube, but I feel like got a new talent for making money at the airport. So
there you go.
And what was for dinner tonight again? Or if you haven't already said,
bacon and eggs and toast. Just kind of what we do when we're in a hurry and don't have a real plan.
Yeah,
that's the way to do it. Quick and easy too.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
And
That's what we had, breakfast for supper.
And Dave, you're drinking unsweetened tea tonight?
I come in here so fast that I didn't get a drink. So I may disappear here just a little bit and go grab me some unsweet tea.
You run off and get you one. Jason Fry is drinking let me guess, he is drinking I'm going to have a grape knee-high.
That's a good guess. Totally wrong, but it's a good guess. No, just plain old water today.
Well, water's
plain
good.
Old water.
Water's good. Well, VMAX with his new Van Dyke. That's not a goatee. That's a Van Dyke when you wear it like that. That's a good look. Right. You took it off your cheeks and you're wearing it. You look like a hockey player right around the beginning of Stanley Cup season.
Yeah, that's right. Before you had black eyes.
Yeah, no tea.
I played hockey.
Oh, I played hockey.
Yeah.
Next time we go to Blade Show, let's just bring a ball and a couple sticks and let's just go at it out there in the concourse.
That'd be great.
Yeah. Hey, no checking though, because that would be
all right.
For you. That would be abusing the elderly, and I don't need that in my life anymore. I have to grunt when I get off the ground from when I play with my grandkids. It's the funniest thing. You get to an age. Don, do you do that when you get up? You have to go.
Yeah, you go.
Yeah, exactly. Trust me. You'll all get there. Dave, you got a gray beard. Do you have to grunt when you get off the ground playing with grandkids?
Yes, I have to grunt when I get off the ground. I grunt when I get out of bed. I grunt when I sit down. It's it's years of playing baseball and karate and knife chopping and outdoor activities and just eating too much.
Getting
that goes
old.
Along there.
Getting old. Getting old. Well,
turned to Big 5-0 this year.
Oh, okay.
I'm turning the big 5'9" here in a couple months. Man, thank goodness for Don. That way I'm not the old man in the group. Right. But Don could probably outrun me. I'm sure he could outrun me in a foot race with no problems. VMAX. So let's see. What are you drinking tonight? I'm going to go with it's probably a Coke Zero night.
Yeah, we're very close. I am. No, it's not close at all. But
a Buzzball? Is that a Buzzball?
No, it's not a Buzzball. This is a new brew I've tried. The Elysian Dark of the Moon Pumpkin Stout. I'm drinking it in celebration of Voter Series since he's not here because it has a big old Black Panther on the.
Oh man, that's cool.
Sweet.
On the cover. So it's a pumpkin stout. So
where's it made? Where's it made at?
Let's see. This is made
Pumpkinville.
Pumpkin stout. Let's see.
New York City.
Yeah. Let's
Texas
see. It is the Elysian Brewing Company, Seattle, Washington.
Okay.
Well, there you go. You know, Texas Pete's not made in Texas. It's made in Winston-Salem, North Carolina.
Yep. They
just got sued for that.
Oh.
Well, guys, I'm drinking a Michelob Ultra and just taking it easy. I've been we got a new shop dog. He's a little foo-foo shop dog. Love him to death already. But I'm crate training and taking him out training, and he's a sweetheart. But I tell you what, I'm gonna put a diaper on him. I'm about to put a diaper on him. But no, he actually did pretty good today. He and I both I picked him up and we leaped for joy in the backyard twice today when he went out and did his business. So
that's good.
I hear you're supposed to leap and jump and celebrate that poop with them so that they realize it's a good thing. Dogs are not linear learners; they're learners by repetition and what feels good. So I want to make that number 2 feel good. So.
There you go.
Well, guys, welcome to our listeners, and we're blessed to have you here. You know, we are a podcast made to teach rising and established makers like you guys out there, and also us, how to pave our way deeper into the hobby or business of knife making. As I said, we can be heard in over 37 countries, and we want to welcome you to Season 5, Episode 42. And we thank you for your listenership, making us the best rising podcast for knife making podcast on this planet Earth. On the planet Earth. I don't think there's a better knife making podcast in the solar systems. Guys, you've been to knivestemplars.com?
Have.
Yes.
Yeah. It's a good site.
Did you see anything new there? It's okay if you didn't, because I just updated it.
I did not.
No, I did not either.
Well, I am pleased to announce we have handshaked a deal with a dear fella with Redeemed Steel. And you can find them at redeemsteel.com. And is anybody here aware of Redeemed Steel?
Yeah,
I've heard of them.
Been
yep.
At a bunch of stuff, you know.
Yes.
In fact, they were down here.
Guys.
Yeah, they're at
they were
Blade
down
Show.
here at the. They were also down here at the that battle at the battleship.
They
last
were.
year.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Billy Salyers with Redeemed Steel, he and I had a wonderful conversation this week, and they, he decided to turn away from teaching. He went into his ministry full time, and I think he has been a minister as well. And he started Redeemed Steel. And I will tell you, they are made up of craftsmen of all sorts: blacksmiths, bladesmiths, metal workers, woodworkers, leather workers, etc. And also, they use their talents to build homes for the homeless, give water to the thirsty, feed the hungry, share the good news of Jesus Christ, and so much more all over the world. Just so you guys know, Redeemed Steel is a Christian 501c3 nonprofit organization that uses the works of our hands and the words of our lips to make a lasting impact as they serve God's kingdom. And with that being said, they're not paying for their sponsorship. They are a great group, and I have volunteered to get involved with them. So hopefully in November I'll be going up to an event that they have, and they're opening up a new 6,000 square foot shop over in the North Carolina, Tennessee area, and I think it's on the North Carolina side. And I will be going hopefully for that opening in November. So let's welcome Redeemed Steel to our podcast, and we'll consider that the first ad of the night.
Yeah,
Good deal. Good
you know, didn't both father and son both win?
They
on Forged in Fire, right? They're both Forged in Fire champions.
Were they both Forged in Fire champions, Jason?
I know they were both on there. I don't know if they both won. I know they were both on there.
Right. Well, they both work together. They work together in the shop, so I'll have to look that up. But Billy did talk about his time on there, and interesting how Redeemed Steel was created, because it was he was looking for God to lead him where he needed to, and it's like his sword was lost on the airplane luggage, and he ended up like 6 or 9 gates down, and ended up talking to another guy that was on the show, and I'll let him tell a story sometime on the show. But before you know it, there were 3 of them that came together that started Redeemed Steel, and there you go. And that's God's hand, that's God's work. And I will say for our folks on here, God's always there for you. If you're not a believer, we respect that, but we're going to spread the word, and if you choose that's a path you want to follow, we're always here for you, as well as God, our Lord and Savior. Amen. Welcome to the team. Welcome to the team. So what's going on, guys? What have you been doing? What do we got going on? What do we want to talk about?
Well, I got a question later on I want to ask the group.
Well, there's no time like now.
All right, I got a question that was put to me here. One of my friends has bought like 8 knives from me.
Hey, it's a good friend.
Yeah. He really supported me, man. I told him thank you for my grinder. Yeah,
that's right.
We was talking the other day, and because I asked him, I said, "How's your boys?" Because he's got 3 sons, and they do a lot of hunting there in Georgia, and a lot of hunting. Like go out their back door and shoot. But I asked him, how was his knives doing? How's the boys like the knives and stuff like that? And he said, man, he goes, that Pops 8670, it really holds the edge, man. They were really impressed with that steel. And but he asked me, he goes, what is your edge thickness what is your final edge thickness that you have before you sharpen the knife? And that's the question that was a question I had from my mentor back when I first started, because I didn't know. Watching all the videos, YouTube, everybody was leaving their edges thick like 30, 40 thousandths. And I said, man, it's got to be way too thick, to
It's
be
like
a
a knife,
slicing
right?
blade. Yeah, it's really thick. And I know why now. As I grew, I've
Mhm.
only been making knives over 2 years, so I've grew in my understanding. And I know now why a lot of them did that is because they would heat treat. They would go in and grind the edge to a final thickness. They would sand it all the way to 600, heat treat, temper, come back and go to 220, and then sand all the way back up. Well, me, the way I was taught, I didn't do that. I went ahead and ran my bevels up to halfway, and then I heat treated, and I left my thickness of my edge before heat treat was around 40 thousandths. And so then after I brought it out of the heat treat, I would go back to the grinder and finish up my bevels and stuff like that. So I reground my blades. Well, they didn't. But that's the question I wanted to bring up, because he asked me, and my mentor, he runs them from anywhere from 10 thousandths to a zero edge. And I mean an EDC knife. I ain't talking about chopper. I'm talking about EDC knife that has, a 3.5-inch blade to 4-inch blade. And I like to ask that question, y'all.
Let me chime in first, because I want everybody to tell me I'm wrong and I'll learn something. When I first started making knives, wherever I was reading, it said leave your edge at a dime's thickness before you harden it, so you don't get. So everything I did, I tried to do at a dime's thickness, which is about 45 thousandths or so,
Mm-hmm.
and then I would grind it down. I would clean it up, and then I would sharpen it for there. I'd put that sharpening bevel on it from that point in. But I sometimes, as I was learning, it would get away from me, and I would end up doing a zero edge, and then going back after hardening it and cleaning it up and grinding away the zero edge up a little bit so I could get it up. So that was learning. So these days, now that I'm a full-time freehander, and there's places for a jig, don't get me wrong, I'm loving this freehanding stuff, though. I harden my knives before I grind them anymore. Yeah. Oh, yeah, before I heat treat. And I have found that I grind slow. I grind with clean belts. I use ceramic belts, and I take my time because I'm not under any production pressure. And I rarely even use any water when I'm grinding anymore, because water just creates rust unless you coat it, but you still got some rust to clean out. So I've started grinding with barely using water, have not overheated a blade, but I'm running, 20,000 RPMs, 30,000 RPMs, and a light touch, sometimes grinding things. Now, don't get me wrong, when I start out at 36 grit, I'm going a little bit faster than this, that, and the other. But once I get down, I slow way down so I don't burn a tip. Getting back to the edge, though, I still leave things at about 40 thousandths, 30 or 40 thousandths, because I love that cutting bevel, that secondary bevel. I like to look at that on the knife where it shows. But on the few culinary knives I've done, and on the two I'm getting ready, I almost take those down just at a zero edge, right before a zero edge. And then, when you sharpen it, you don't see much of that secondary bevel at all, if any.
Yep.
That's my take on it. And I think a lot of it's personal preference, but I may be completely wrong about that. So I'll open it up to the experts here.
Go ahead, Jason. Jason, go. Wake up, Jason.
Be an expert every day.
Wake up.
That's something I've messed with quite a bit, and I have a bunch of opinions about. But if you've listened to the podcast some, I'm fairly form follows function. Okay, so to me, there is no right answer. It's not 10 thousandths. It's not 50 thousandths. It depends on what you're doing with it and what it's for, right? So, a 40 thousandths edge with a fairly heavy bevel, on a 5160 brush chopping knife at 56 Rockwell, makes perfect sense, right? Would not work worth a darn for cutting tomatoes, or skinning a deer. So with that said, though, I'm kind of like Chip. I've settled into some preferences. Like I'll take a typical hunter to about 20. Uh, can you go thinner? Yes, but I'm handing that off to guys, and I don't know if they can properly use a thin knife, because if you push the geometry and then you abuse it, you'll chip it, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes. So my just general production stuff is, yeah, say about 20 thousandths or so, sometimes 15. Um, I'm kind of like Chip on a chef's knife. I'll go as thin as I can tolerate, honestly.
Oh yeah.
You don't want to get it so thin, so zero edge that you lose your edge geometry, like your profile, right? It needs to be straight. Like you can't have thickness variations that make it funny. So maybe 10 thousandths to grind it back to straight so that your edge is uniform. I mean, those are kind of my preferences. I did want to tell a story. I was messing with rope cutting one time. That's a part of the ABS tests, and I have passed that part. I failed other parts, but I passed the rope cutting. And one of the things I figured out um, was that dimension you're talking about, Chip, is critical to cutting rope. So I took a forged blade, about a 10-inch blade, kind of buoy-ish, heavy enough to cut rope with, and I ground it to where I thought it ought to be, and I put an edge on it like I wanted to. And again, I'm doing most of this by eye, so I couldn't tell you it's 22 3/4 degrees or whatever. But I just put an edge on it like I did, and it was pretty inconsistent on cutting the rope. And so I messed with it some more, and I just put a 220 belt on and took about 3 passes on each side off of that edge geometry dimension that we're talking about. So not the edge itself, but the thickness behind it. Got it down to about 20 thousandths from only about 27, so not very much. And that changed that nice ability to cut the rope with the exact same swing. So I didn't mess with the edge angle. I didn't mess with the knife. Didn't mess with the weight. Didn't mess with the technique. Only that variable, that thinner knife there in the 20 thousandths range, cut the rope substantially better than 27 or 32 thousandths. So I don't pretend that's universal, but I did test it in person manually with a caliper. So I have a kind of a question too. So I have not done a lot of rope cutting and chopping and stuff like old Big Hand Dave specializes in. So I want to hear the answer to this edge question from that perspective. What do you do, Dave?
Yeah.
So 20 thousandths on the edge. One thing on the rope, a free swinging rope, you have got to have some tooth on that edge. Mm-hmm. You've got to have something that grabs that rope, cut it, but also grab it and pull it tight when you're hitting it. You have an angle that when you're cutting that rope, I say, 1 to 7 is the way that I go down when I cut the rope, so it's a pretty steep angle that you've got on that rope. If you come too far in, you'll push it, especially the bigger ropes, the 2-inch rope. So you've really got to get the angle right. You got to come through it and follow through, is as important as, hitting it. So when you come through it and hit it, you've got to have some tooth. So when I'll go to about 20 thousandths. I think, Donovan, the other makers, they'll go to about 20 thousandths. Some of them will go 30, but I think most of them are about 20 thousandths. That's what I do on my knives that I'm making now. And, but when I sharpen it, I'll sharpen. And then when I strop, I'll strop down to 4 micron. And I use the CBN, like I've mentioned before on the show, cubic boron nitride. And it puts a tooth on that blade. It leaves a toothy type edge. I mean, it's still sharp enough to shave and sharp enough to do everything, but it leaves just enough tooth. So when you hit that rope at that angle, it pull it tight and cut through it. If you don't cut that rope, it's like hitting a cinder block. Just the way it pulls back, and so it's there's a lot of form there, but the knife has to have some tooth in order to pull that rope tight and then cut. So it's a fine. As far now, the bigger the rope, that's more important. The smaller the rope, you can just kind of muscle or speed through it. You know, the 3/4 inch rope, the 1/2 inch rope, the inch rope. Once you start getting to an inch and a half in the middle of the rope and the 2 inch rope, really form, edge, and you start getting to bigger ropes than that. You start going to the nylon or the poly rope, that type of thing. You've really got to have that form, that edge, and that tooth just enough to pull that rope tight.
Yeah.
So I've heard that toothy edge advice before, and I wanted to dive off in that at a little bit of a nerd level. Me and Google have some questions for you. So, I mean, when I have shot for what I think a toothy edge is, I'll usually go to 400 or 600 and then drop from there, just with Green Rouge or something on a leather strop. I have got some of that stuff you were recommending, Dave, because I trust your edge more than mine, honestly. But to me, in my mind, maybe a 600 and strop was a toothy edge. And so when you said 4 micron, my my brain went, well, what the heck grit is that? What's a micron? Right. So
it's roughly 4,000 grit.
Yeah, so four micron is about 6,000 grit, according to this little chart I Googled. 9 micron is 12. 3 micron is 4,000. I don't know. This chart's funny. It doesn't look right.
I was thinking somewhere around the 4,000 mark.
Yeah, 4,000 mark sounds about right.
Yeah.
But to me, as a guy that makes hunting knives, to me, 4,000 grit seems super, super fine. I don't come from a background where I would push a knife edge up to, 30,000 grit stone or something.
I've actually sharpened the comp knife to 0.1 micron, and it did not have enough of an edge that when I hit the rope, I mean, it was just like I said, hitting that cinder block. It just didn't. It just didn't cut
it. Bite it enough.
It just didn't bite.
You need some abrasiveness or grit.
Yeah,
Something that's going to.
Got to have that tooth. Another thing that we cut, pool noodles, and they'll put them on a dowel and just kind of hang them off the bench, and you've got to hit it and cut it. Well, if there's not that tooth on the pool noodle, it just will not just. It just kind of right on top of it.
Yeah.
It's the craziest thing I've ever seen. But the 4 micron and the CBN is just kind of, that's what I found that works best for me. The steel that any steel for that matter that I use, the 8670, the CPM 4V, the M4, the 3V, any of the steels, the 80 CRV, I'll still go to that strop with that, and I'll go to about 800, maybe 1,200 sharpening. And then I go from that to the strop.
Okay.
That CBN, even though it's about 4,000 grit, it cuts so fast that I don't go Green Rouge, Red Rouge.
Yeah,
and then,
I just time I tried the stuff you pointed me towards. Yeah, I could tell it cut quickly for a strop relative.
Yeah, it cuts quick, and it's just it saves me about half the time stropping. You can take about half the strop licks off, and when you're sharpening a knife, and a lot of times on my comp knife, I don't go back and take steel off. I just strop between actual competitions. I'll just drop and check it out. And when I check my sharpness out, I've kind of got a thing that I do. And I think, I'm a musician too. So I listen to the sound of that knife going through paper.
Yep.
I'll take a piece of newspaper, and you can take a knife and go through the newspaper, pretty quick, but I go through it as slow as I possibly can. And I listen as I'm pulling through that knife. I listen to the sound of that knife.
I'm so glad to hear that, because I thought you were going to say you check them by manscaping.
No. Well, yeah. So when an electrician gets onto his son, does he ground him? Oh, sorry.
Just one
dad
second.
Jokes. Anyway, when I check the sharpness, I'll do it with a piece of newspaper, and I pull that knife real slow through as I'm pulling through that newspaper, and I listen to the sound. The lower the pitch, the closer it is to tearing. The higher the pitch, it's cutting, the better it's cutting. Yep. So if you could take the knife and go through that paper before you strop it, then take that knife and go through the paper after you strop it, and you'll actually hear a noticeable higher pitch change in that paper. And that's kind of, we're talking extreme, taking a knife through extreme situations, pushing it to the edge in these competitions. That's what this is for. Getting the most out of a blade, finding the geometry that does not just wood, but does rope and does bottles and straws and, kind of a overall knife. Because if I was just going to cut wood, I would design the knife different, more mallish, than if I'm cutting everything else. So you've got to kind of have a general one that does it all. But, that's just pushing it to the extreme. And to get it sharp, for me, the paper trick is that's what I've learned on my own. I've seen people pull it across the top of their thumbnails to see if it, catches. And I've seen people shave hair and stuff like that. But just that pitch, and I do it with my regular knives too. I'll go through that paper and just hear that pitch change as I'm stropping. And it'll get to a point where it doesn't change anymore, where it's the same, after you strop every time, you've got just about the sharpness out of it. But that's just taking that little extra step to get that just extreme sharpness. You're pulling out of that knife what all it can do sharp wise based on the angles, the bevels.
Yep.
Man, Dave, that is some serious expert level advice.
That's it right there now.
I super appreciate you sharing that with us.
Yeah, good job, man.
Yeah. Well, that's just kind of what I've been taught and what I've kind of learned on my own. I try to compete at a high level. I try to win, bring home the bacon, and it's just, you've got to have a sharp knife and the ability for those knives just to strop them between competitions. And that's it. Mm-hmm. That, to me, that says a lot about this CBN, this cubic boron nitride stropping compound.
Yeah. Hey guys, don't give Big Hand a big head, because I'm still not paying him for that expert level advice.
Okay, here we go.
Hey, one thing before we transition to whatever's next. Dave, say for us one time, clearly, what is this product that you're talking about?
Okay, this product, maybe we can get Chip to put it in the notes or something of the podcast.
I'll write it down. Go ahead.
So it is cubic boron nitride stropping emulsion. You can get it a couple of different places. DLT sells it. You can just Google it up. I think Pop's Knife Supply is fixing to pick it up and start selling it.
Cool.
So you can find it if you just, and it comes in a lot of different microns, a lot of different formulations. The general, it's not cheap. It's fairly expensive for a little 2-3 ounce bottle of it. It's fairly expensive.
Spray bottle, right? Spray?
No, it's not a spray bottle. It's a little dropper bottle.
Like it's about $25 for an ounce and a half or something.
Yeah, ounce and a half, $25. I mean, it's fair, but that ounce and a half,
not super high. Yeah,
that ounce and a half will last you years. I mean, it will. You will probably lose the bottle before you finish using the bottle.
Yeah.
Just truthfully, and you put about 7 drops on your strop. And you shake it up because it's an emulsion. It's a oil and water emulsion with this CBN particles in it. You shake it up. You put about 7 drops on your strop. I usually take a glove, like a nitrile glove or some type of glove, and I'll just work it all over my strop, get it good, strop good and wet. And then I'll set the strop over to the side and I'll just let it dry about 30 minutes or so. After it completely dries, then you take it and you start stropping it. And that one, just putting it on that one time, you can probably strop 30 or 40 knives before you have to put any back on again.
Yeah.
And then you just put it back on. You put about 5, 6, 7 drops, spread it, let it dry. Just do it again. And I use, on the strops, on the leather strop, you have a smooth side and kind of like the suede type side. I'll use the smooth side. I put it on the smooth side only. And what I use the suede side for, I don't put anything on it. And sometimes I'll come back and I'll just run it a couple of times, just kind of clean that edge, clean anything that might be on that edge off, just on just straight leather. Nothing but that on the rough side.
Dave?
Wow.
The listeners are going to want you on the show more and more. You too, Jason.
Yeah, that's worth the price of admission right there.
It is. Hey, speaking of price of admission, sometimes it's good just to have the right tools in your shop, and you know what that means. And we have partnered with TR Maker, and I'm going to tell you up front, you can find them at tr-maker.com. Yücel Udiz runs this business. He's out of Istanbul, Turkey. Just one of the most wonderful people you'd ever deal with. Guys, I put in my order. It shipped on Friday, and it was in at my house on Monday afternoon from Turkey. He spends the extra money to send everything DHL and get it to you right away. I received a file guide, a carbide file guide. I've got a new polishing sander, the one he's put out that holds the paper. Got 2 nice handles on both sides, and also got a guard press because I'm getting ready to do some hidden tang knives. But a little bit about them. Since 1980, TR Maker has offered high quality and fast service from Istanbul, the heart of Turkey, beautiful country, to every country in the world they're shipping out to. But you can check out their line of knife making tools, because I only mentioned a few, to make your job easier and more precise. You can't do without their products once you discover them. There you go. And I do want to say another thing you can't do without Mr. Mark Vassallo is a flattening hammer. It is sitting on my workbench, and the bearing is sitting there in a little bag beside it. But I had to finish a knife this week, and I'm going to deer camp tomorrow. But I guarantee you it will get done because it's sitting there in the queue to get done. It's a 20-minute project, but I need to tell you, without a doubt, you are receiving the straightening hammer.
Well, the good news is I do not have any warp blades sitting on my bench right now.
That's a good thing.
Hey,
and that's because well, he uses the Vassallo VMAX forge, and just makes straight blades every time.
And pinto sauce.
And pinto sauce. I didn't want to forget that, and I've said it publicly, so I think you can take me to trial in New York City, because they'll let you sue for anything there, and you'll probably win against me, just in case I don't provide it within the next week and a half or so. So get your attorneys ready, but I don't think you'll need them. So there you go.
Can I jump in for a quick question for Don?
Sure, go ahead.
Of course.
All right. And so hey, I know you've been talking about your tilt table a lot, right?
Yeah.
And is it? I was trying to just envision it. Can you only do 90-degree bevel angles on that, or can you? Do they always have to be straight?
No, I
you know what I'm talking about.
You talking about like the bevel? Talking about the bevel like this right here?
Yeah, so I guess that's angled, right? I
It's
can't
angled, yeah.
quite.
It's like 15 degrees.
Okay.
I mean,
And so
you can
so
go
you
more
you
than
can.
that. You can go more than
Okay.
that. All you got to do is just when you go up into the belt, just angle it down and cut in. It'll make it more of a
I just didn't know if it threw off like the geometry of how it cut into how it cut in there. So you could really just angle it however you want. You just kind of pull it straight across the same
yeah.
way. So all right.
Yeah, just
I, I
you
think
just
I
pull
think
it
I'm going.
across and just follow the curve of the blade as you go, and then
Yeah.
and come down.
Mark,
Do
it's
you
a
have one of those,
beautiful.
Chip?
Yes, it's a beautiful thing, and I actually set my platen at a certain degree. Don, what are we setting at? About 50 degrees, 52
Yeah,
degrees
50,
or whatever.
51. Yeah,
And
51
so
something like that.
and then I zero out using a digital angle gauge, and then I go to my adjustable platen and I adjust the platen from there. So if I want 15 or 7 or whatever degrees I want, and then you just go up and you kiss that belt with your steel and take it across. And the time you told me that it looked like a CNC grind,
That's right. Hmm.
yeah, that's what I was using.
Yeah.
And as long as you go up and just kiss the belt and come across, it makes the most wonderful grinds. The other thing is, um, I would advise you to get some Teflon tape sheets,
Hmm.
adhesive, or put down some. You can use blue tape too, but if you're using water, it gets soaked through. But if you can put down blue tape or get yourself a sheet of Teflon adhesive backing and put that down on the surface, and then I just use a paintbrush and a white paper towel. About
Hmm.
every 3 or 4 passes, I'll kind of blow it off a little bit and brush it with the brush or whatever I need to do to make sure it's clean, and it keeps the scratching down. You can also tape your knives when they're going through there, but I found I
That's
didn't
right.
really need to do that once I just keep the table clean.
Well, if you're planning on if you grind after heat treat like I do now, pretty
That's right.
much, then it depends on what I'm doing. Usually, I'm going to the scratches won't be that bad because it's hardened.
Hmm.
But I normally go ahead and sandblast anyway. I sandblast my my knives, but or I take and surface grind them. But usually when after I surface grind them, then I go ahead and make sure they're flat. Talking about the hammer, this right here had a little bow in it. This one here,
Hmm.
and it only took maybe about 8, 9 taps, and I got it flat as a board, man. So that works really
Nice.
well. So
That's awesome.
when he ever gets time to send it to you, you're gonna love it, man. Um, but yeah, I have. If you're worried about scratches, stuff like that, like Chip said, you might want to tape it up. But like I said, the table itself,
Hmm.
and make sure to keep it clean. But I'm gonna acid etch it, or I'm going to sandblast it. So and then my blades anyway. So I don't worry about that.
So, have you used the sharpener you got from Ameribraid yet?
I have. So I'll be honest. It took me. I had to do a little bit of practicing. It took me maybe 2 or 3 blades getting through there to really get the knack. But now I love it. It's awesome.
Well, trust me, if you get one of those tilt tables, you'll quit talking about the sharpener.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and speaking of TR Maker, I saw something cool that they've come out with, and you guys have to check this out. It's kind of like a really small miter box, it's, just something that's a squared off U shape, and it's got set screws on both sides, and you can take your wood and set it in there and clamp it in with these set screws, and then put it on their flattening. What do you call it, Don? You
What you
slide
mean?
back and forth. The flattening
Surface grinder?
surface grinder.
Yeah,
Thank you.
surface grind.
So
Oh yeah.
so, so it's
Mhm.
it's magnetic. It'll stick to the surface grinder,
Mhm.
and you go back and forth, and
Oh,
it makes the most perfect flat edges. I
nice.
was like
On your
this
wood.
is
That's
Yep,
yeah.
not
you can do
not
that.
on my wood, but on the hand. The
Well,
The
oh,
handles.
I
on
got you.
Oleg's
I got
wood.
on
Yeah.
Oleg's wood. On Oleg's.
That's right.
No, you or Don's wood.
Yep, sure.
Don's
But
wood. Yeah.
yeah, it does a wonderful job.
That's a great
Um,
idea.
yeah.
Get
So
something to stick to a magnet. I was trying to figure. It's funny that you're saying that. I was picturing that of how you can do non ferrous materials on a surface grinder, and how that would work.
The only thing you could do if you didn't have that tool, I seen that tool you're talking about. That it's got 4 set screws that holds it on. But if not, you can take a piece of steel that's been flattened, and then go ahead and do some 2-sided tape and put on your blocks. Maybe a little harder to get off, but get it off the tape. But it'll work too. I've done that before. So
it's not as cool as TR Maker's part.
No, it's
but
not.
Yes,
it's not.
But
I mean,
yes,
it's easier. That's easier. I seen that little jig they got. I think, man, that'd be easy. Could just unbolt it, turn it around, stick it in because it's already flattened.
Yeah.
So
I would say if you have a mill but not a surface grinder, I'll sometimes use a fly cutter to surface off my blocks, or
that's perfect.
Or put in a half-inch, just a half-inch end mill and run it back and forth.
Oh yeah.
I've even taken to on my hidden tangs to flatten that front joint where it touches the guard. I'll chuck that in the mill so that I know that it's dead nut square to the sides of the block. So again, definitely non-traditional woodworking methods, right? But when you have a tool, you figure out how to make it do things, just like your surface grinder, buddy.
Yeah, well, this is not a Jason Fry tip. These are 2 Templar tips. Jason Fry tips coming up later, but the first Templar's tip is, hey guys, if you want to put a big hole in the middle of your blade like Spyderco or this, that, and the other, and I just did one recently, you need to go out and get you a carbide hole cutter. I got one from Lowe's. Puts the most beautiful circular hole in the middle of your blade, wherever you want to put it. So that's a tip you can count on. Additionally, I want to say, guys, what we're talking about here with the handles, don't take any shortcuts. Get those things flat, because you guys out there, you're going to understand this. How many times have you drilled out your scales only to go back and put your pins in and the pins didn't line up? What causes that?
Bow.
Everything's not flat when you go and drill it. When you stick that piece of steel in between the scales instead of on top of the 2 clamped together, creates a whole different angle. So guys, whatever method you're doing, taping your handles and going to a surface grinder, going to a granite block or a disc sander or whatever it is, you need to make sure those things are flat on both sides and true. Otherwise, you need to go out and buy your scales pre-cut, so you don't get around that, because it puts undue stresses on a knife where you're going to end up with cracked scales if they make it through it and you can get it through there. I've cracked a few scales in my life as I learned this. So everything you can do to make them true and square before you go to putting those pins back in, before you drill those few holes, will make all the difference in properly fitting materials. So.
Good
There's
job.
your 2 Templars. There's your 2 Templars tips. Hey guys, let's talk about Eric Rivers. I know he's on the mend. He's been putting out some great live shows and doing great work. Getting ready to. He's making his sword for the YouTube Knife Makers Challenge right now. But Eric suffered an unfortunate event, and it's not so uncommon, I come to find out. He was out in the yard last week, and he was swinging his hatchet, cutting some branches after he had just sharpened that. And everybody knows Eric can sharpen a knife, right?
Oh yeah.
Well, came out of his hand. The handle hit something and bounced back at him and dissected his ankle. And he says he was peeled open like a perfect dissection. He cut through a vein and ended up going in and wrapping it all up and passed out from blood loss on the way to the hospital with a family member driving him. They sewed him back up, and he says, time to do live with Eric Rivers again. Well, he's been hobbling around the shop and doing some wonderful work. So keep Eric in your prayers. He gets his stitches out here shortly. So he cut through a vein, which a bigger vein that allowed him to bleed out, but he knew how to get it wrapped up and take care of himself. But guys, with your knife makers, I can't stress enough, and Eric and I talked about it. Get you a good blood stopper bandage. You can get them at your CVS or your Walmart or wherever. Order it online. Get a good combat size blood stopper bandage. For smaller cuts, you can deal with those as well. But I always make sure I got some butterflies and some medical super glue and certain things like that to address certain needs. And I actually have a tourniquet that I keep in my shop because you just never know. If I cut my neck, I may need to put a tourniquet around it just to say, don't do that, guys. That's just a little stupid humor. That's dad humor, as Eric would put it. But make sure you guys are prepared to address yourself because you may be the only thing saving you if you end up with a bad situation. And even before it sharpens, sometimes just that pointy edge, can come at you and you can walk into it or whatever. So keep it in your thoughts. But just to check it, I went and looked on YouTube. And I don't know why people go to these axe throwing places and throw axes. I would just stick with darts. You can find more axes bouncing back at people's heads on YouTube than should be allowed by law to have these types of things at places. At least they should put them behind a pitcher's screen or something to protect them at least a little bit. Face mask on them, but a lot of axes bouncing back out there. So anyway, keep Eric in your prayers and be careful if you're throwing axes.
No, man.
Yeah. The Pops Knife Supplies. Before we move any further, we need to make sure that people know they're going to be closed for a few days. I think it starts around the 9th or 10th, and they'll be closed for a few days. Check on their website. But they're moving over to their brand new, beautiful shop in Gainesville. And I've been over there to where that shop is that they'll be opening up, and it's going to allow them to expand even further. Right now, they're in a kind of a business area with a bunch of storefronts within that business, or not necessarily storefronts, business fronts. So kind of like in a little industrial plaza. So this is going to get them right out there where the world can see them. But guys, you can find them at popsknifesupplies.com. As you likely know, they were started 40 years ago by the great James Poplin, who passed away this last year. And he was already an accomplished knife maker when he started it. And he served that industry and the community with best prices and only charging actual shipping costs. Well, it's run today by Alan Searles, Joey Berry, Dirk Lutz, and Andy Roy, and they're additionally they're full-time knife makers and great ones at that. Their focus is on customer service and great prices, and I guarantee you, if you shop at Pop's Knife Supplies, get there at popsknifesupplies.com or Pop's Knife Supplies or popsknife.supplies is the other way you can get there, and you won't be disappointed. As a matter of fact, Don, you talked me into ordering some what tonight?
It is called caramel cream paper micarta.
And some micarta pins.
Yep.
And three drill bits and something else, I think.
Yeah,
but
drill bits. You got 3 drill bits, which is number 11s, that's what you use to drill out a 3/16 pin.
Yep. You gave some great advice. Use one bit on your steel. Use the other 2 for your micarta.
Yeah,
or at
right.
least use one for your micarta.
Sure.
That was great advice. Thank you so much for that advice, because I never thought about it. I just go over my bits. So I think I've got to go buy some scale bits, because all my scales all my materials go through the same bits. So you've swayed me on that. Yeah, Don.
Got one tip for you guys out there in listening land. Anytime you're drilling any type of wood, micarta, anything like that, and unless you got something underneath that micarta or the wood, like another piece of wood, sacrificial wood, tape it. Put a piece of tape under it. And as you drill through with a sharp bit, you won't blow out I tell you, man, canvas micarta is real easy to do that. It blows out at the end. And so I learned to, in woodworking, if you ever done any woodworking, which I have, anytime you are drilling through a piece of wood and you don't want to tear out or blow out, you will definitely, because what it is nothing to support the grain.
Right.
So you always back it with other piece of wood, and then you have a clear hole. I would recommend, if you're doing micarta, wood, G10, use sharp bits and back it with wood or tape or something. So that's my tip.
We're going to call this the Deer Attack Tip Show, or the Deer Tip Show. I don't know. The Deer Attacks, when deers attack, and knife making tips. I've got something to add to that. Will you defer your time to me for 2 minutes like they've been doing in Washington this week?
Sure, I'll yield to you.
Thank you so much. I'll yield it back when I'm done. Also, I'm one of those guys that has had a tendency in the past to get a little overzealous trying to drill those holes. And if you're going through micarta, I will tell you, you're building up a lot of heat if you're pushing too hard and you're not using the show, and that thing will fire back on you like a cannon, and then it blows out the edges of your hole as well when it comes back because it gets a significant pop. Guys, keep it cool. Use cutting oil, and you don't have to overdo it, but use some cutting oil to keep it smooth in there, and come in and out and clean out that hole as you're going, or you're going to get a pop, and it's going to destroy the outside edge of your hole where it relieves itself. Yes, Jason.
I wanted to add a similar tip for brittle things. Okay,
so this is a trip.
It's a different issue, but like if you're playing with mother of pearl or mammoth tooth or mammoth ivory, on those as well, that taping that back or using a piece of G10 or something underneath is super critical. Not because they have grain structure like Don's talking about, but because just they're such brittle material, and the force of that bit coming through will pop it right out the back every time. So good tip, Don.
Yes,
so
sir.
what we have now is the trip trifecta. Anybody want it to make it the tip quadrafecta?
That's a lot of fectas.
Yeah. I know. Guys, what have you been making lately? What's going on? First of all, Don, hold up that beautiful knife you showed me so you guys out there can find this at Don Watson Knives on Instagram. He'll have a pretty picture of it. Got a beautiful
nice
hunter, and he's showing that same, what is it? What did I buy again? Cream or butterscotch?
It's caramel cream.
Oh, there we go. Caramel cream, micarta. And he's got some, I believe, of those brown pins in it.
Yeah, brown.
And with brown liners, and I will tell you guys, with that piece of steel, it is the most gorgeous knife. I would almost buy it from Don.
Oh,
if he wasn't going to send it to me for free.
I tell you, I have to thank Joey T, our another co-host. He put a knife out, and that's under. And I seen that handle material. I went, dude. And I called him. I said, hey man, where'd you get that? He said, that's for Pops, man. Pop knife supply.
Yeah. Well, I've got 12 a 12 by 12 sheet of it coming, so I'm looking forward to it for sure. Hey, so what else you got going on? Because you've got one finished there. What do you got going on in the shop?
Oh man, I got another knife I got to make for a guy, and it's going to be it's one of my. I call it. Everybody calls them a bird and trout.
Yeah,
I think I'm going to call it feather and fur. I'm gonna call it my feather and fur knife.
Well, that's cool.
Change it up, yeah. I have it done hopefully this week, and do them on scales. I've been making some scales, segmented scales with the different micartas, different colors. Just trying that and doing that.
Well, wouldn't you call it a feather and scales knife, or is it going to be feather and fur?
I think it's we down here in Florida, we don't have a lot of that trout like y'all do up north.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I was just messing around. I was thinking, well, I just call it bird and fur, or
You could call it the bass, bucks, and ducks.
Hey, there you go. Yeah, that'll work.
Somebody probably already owns
bucks and ducks.
Yeah. That sounds cool. Well, you guys know I just finished that hunter I was making with the big old hole in it. I was talking about carbide, and I finished a sheath for it. I'll be sending that off after this weekend. But I'm going to use the materials I got from Ucell at TR Maker, and I'm going to start doing some hidden tang knives and start off with a couple culinary knives. I don't know if I mentioned to you guys what an influence I've had this year, and you reap what you sow. Kindness breeds kindness, and it delivers kindness back. You should never do things out of fear of reciprocation, but I've never seen an instance where a kind word didn't retrieve one back. So this year, God inspired on me to every knife I made was for free. I may have mentioned this on another show. It doesn't. It's worth saying again. So all the knives I've made this year, I have made for free, and I gave them to people that I felt were blessed, and they lived their lives out in a way to bless other people. And we had a message when I made them for them. That message was, if anybody ask you about this knife, you tell them you paid $800 for it. You can get them a deal at $600, and then I'll sell it to them at $500, and they'll think, what a bargain. that was part one. Part two was that I wanted them to take what they felt the knife was worth and donate that towards a charity, to their church, to a mission, to something good in the community, to continue to, I hate to use the term pay it forward, but I didn't want to be mentioned in the process. So, um, my wife, the accountant, is going to be quite excited. December's rolling around, but I will have fulfilled my mission to do that. So I'm going to be starting on a couple culinary knives, and then that hunter I just made, somebody like that one. And that particular person also touched my heart with the things that he's been doing in his life. So it's neat how God rewards you, and then God has introduced me to Redeem Steel. So that that is where that's where I'm headed. That's going to be next year's mission, working with those guys. Big
Cool.
Hand, you getting those knives off of your you getting those knives off your bench? You working on them knives?
Not currently working on much of anything. I kind of in the middle of football season. My son's a junior this year, so we're right in the middle of high school football season, which is really, it's Friday nights and every other night, really. So
Right.
it's kind of hadn't been able to get out there as much as I'd like. I still have one on the bench that I've got to get out there and just finish the handles, and I'm done with it. Also, kind of in the middle of blade sports season.
Right.
So I've got there's a couple of competitions coming up. I'll be the end of October. See, I'll be at Smoky Mountain Knife Works
Oh wow.
vendor days up there. And then in November, going to North Carolina to Gastonia to do a competition there, just kind of southwest of Charlotte.
Yeah, we used to run down to Gastonia when wanted to get all redneck when I lived in Charlotte growing up. That's where I grew up, in Charlotte.
Okay.
And matter of fact, when you go to Smoky Mountain Knife Works, are you going up there with the family, or are you just going up by yourself?
Going with the family. Gonna go with the family to Smoky Mountain Knife Works. And
Good deal.
so it should be fun. There's a lot of makers there, a lot of
Right.
vendors, and uh, different knife companies, and so it's just a lot of folks from the industry, there for that
Well,
weekend.
that's 4 hours from my house, so I may have to check the calendar for that. What's the event called?
I think it's called Smoky Mountain Knife Works Rep Weekend.
Okay. Well, I may have to look that up and head up there. If you see me walking around in a Hats by Grizz made by Joy Buckaroo, or a nice Wyoming Grizz, you come up and say hello to me. I'll show
Sure
you where to get.
will.
I'll show you where to get one. But I'd love to see you. I'd love to see you in competition. Dave, how do y'all know where to go at each stage of the chomping competition?
We have basically a walkthrough. We have a safety talk, a safety meeting before the competition that's mandatory for anybody that's competing, and we'll do a course walkthrough. And that's part of the competition, is basically knowing how to go through the course. You're
Yeah.
given those directions, and a lot of times they'll put a piece of tape with number, like at each stations, what station's going next.
Yeah.
And when I practice, I basically choreograph my moves from one station to the next, and depending on how I go into that station, uh, depicts whether I will cut with a forehand cut or a backhand cut into
Yeah.
water bottles or whatever.
I'm gonna
Did
have
you
to
take
dig.
knife choreography lessons from Britney Spears?
No, I didn't. But I saw that, and there's got to be some type of knowledge that you can pull from that demonstration.
I believe so too, man.
Let's just say
Not sure what it is.
that was not martial arts. I'll leave it there. But I would like to be your choreographer as far as music goes, because I think that I can work with your videos and slow you or speed you down enough that I can get a good beat going with your chops, like moves like Jagger, or whatever song you want to choose, and
Yeah,
just get
actually, I usually sing a song in my head to keep keep the beat.
Yeah.
It's usually
Cuts like a knife.
Good idea.
Well, no, that's a little slow. Usually it's Thunderstruck
Or Kung Fu Fighting.
Yeah, that's a little slow. It's Thunderstruck is the song that I'm usually
AC/DC? Yeah.
AC/DC.
Yeah.
That's the song that I'm usually, or I can kind of tell I'm a '90s kid. Sometimes I'll listen to Stone Temple Pilots, Cracker Man.
How about It's a Long Way to the Top, AC/DC? That sounds like
Oh yeah,
it's a long.
That's a good one.
To the top. Yeah, I think you can chop to that one. Matter of fact, you can tell in my videos when I've had a little bit of Old Smoky moonshine, because I'm in there my overalls and I've kind of got a little swagger on, and you can tell I've got my AC/DC on or something in the background and got the booty shake on. Got the booty shake on. And ain't got no booty, so the overalls just kind of swing back and forth all funny. I'd like to come up and watch you chop, Dave. Sounds like a fun time.
Hopefully you can be there. I was doing some walked outside doing some kind of practicing stuff, and had my earbuds in, listening to music. And that's one thing when I kind of listen to some of my music, it throws in a song that's not necessarily my playlist every now and then. Yeah. And the Beastie Boys Sabotage came on. I'm like,
oh yeah, that's a good one. That's a good one.
Oh, that's all right there.
I can't stand it.
You can't what?
Well, I said I can't stand it. Which, of course, for the uneducated listeners, is the first line of that song. Thank you very much.
Yeah. I was going to say, not everybody's a Buddy Holly fan there, Jason. Oh, you got to be from Lubbock to be a Buddy Holly fan. Hey guys,
that kind of tells us our age, kind of what genre we come from.
Well, I was AC/DC, Rush, and that stuff called whatever 80s syntho stuff. Excuse me, it always makes me cough when I think about those days. But some of it was pretty good. I don't know. I can say I was listening to Devo Sand and Steel out in the shop last week, and something about Devo was just registering with me, and I was going with it. Guys, if Mark, if you had to get some sandpaper, you thought I was going to ask you about where you're swimming lately, but if you wanted to get some sandpaper, where would you pogo stick to in America, and or what company would you pogo stick to in America? I know they're in Minnesota, and they offer a 10% discount.
I'd have to start with Phoenix Abrasives, I think.
Phoenix.
They offer great prices, selection, quality, and quick delivery. Matter of fact, they've got a 10% discount if you use Templar's 10 and you pogo stick all the way to the Minnesota warehouse. They have a complete inventory of belts, discs, rolls, wheels, and everything that you need to get the job done. As a matter of fact, if you enter Templar's 10 at checkout, you'll get 10% off your next order, and you don't have to pogo stick. That's just Mark's gig these days. He got tired of swimming.
That's right.
We're back.
So Phoenix is in Minnesota, and Arizona Custom Knives is in Florida, right?
That is
what
right,
we've covered.
And we also and Texas Pete is made in Winston-Salem, North Carolina.
Right. There you go.
Yeah. And where's that salsa made? New York City.
This stuff's made in New York City.
Pecane sauce.
New York City.
Yeah. Was it where was Pace made? Was that the one that was?
Yeah,
is that the New York City brand?
Yeah.
San Antonio. Yeah.
San Antonio, Texas.
Hey guys, I'm telling you, don't do any business in New York City at all. They're not business friendly, and I just, that's all I have to say about that.
Amen on that.
I'm not taking anything to New York these days. Yeah. Or the city of Atlanta, Georgia. I will not spend my money there. I will not spend my money.
Oh, in Atlanta, Georgia, isn't that where the
Except for Blade Show?
Come on.
I'm not giving my money to the city of Atlanta while I'm there.
Okay.
By gosh, I'll eat bologna sandwiches when I'm there. Thank you. That's all I have to say about that. I just don't like what's going on in the world these days, and I'm not endorsing or liking, because I'm a lot like Jason Fry. I didn't vote for anybody. I ain't talking about it, but the world is amok with craziness these days. Jason, what are you up to besides flying and living in airports?
Yeah, other than that, I actually put in a good long day Saturday in the workshop.
You did?
Knowing that I was going to be out doing other things a bunch. I worked hard Saturday, and I worked on 3 3 knives in Nitro V stainless, just stainless stock removal, a couple of hunters, and a chef knife. 2 of them are orders, and one of them's just because. I'll say I talk a game, and I think I'm right about liking to make these crazy Bowie knives and Damascus made out of, Sam Houston's teeth, and I mean all this crazy mess, But the truth is, those are hard to sell. So I make a regular knife some too. So Joey and I talk back and forth a little bit about it on chat too. So
sure,
making just some regular old stuff.
Yeah.
Using some Texas mesquite, handle wood. So
yeah. Awesome. How's your production knife selling these days?
Pretty good. I sold through a bunch, and I've got a bunch more on the way. One of the tricks that I've discovered is that if you're having them manufactured, it's real easy to try to sell the same thing that you can buy at the store, right? Well, I don't want to do that. So I have put in an order for myself to get some in Ultrex Sure Touch. So it's a rubber G10 product. Yeah. And those are going to be just mine. We don't have those through the web stuff. So they're going so far, so good.
Good,
Don,
good.
What's up?
Yeah, I want to ask you about that handle material. How I was looking at getting some of that, but how easy is it to shape and mess with?
It wasn't any trouble at all. It grinds about like G10. That rubber layers, of course, are a little bit softer, so you can finish it up a little rougher, like 220, 400. There's not, in my mind, much benefit to going to 2,000 grit or something on an Ultrex handle. It just works against the properties of the rubber. But it's a pleasure to work. It doesn't work any differently than anything else.
Yeah, because I kind of stayed away from that because I didn't know if it was smear or get too hot or
no, definitely not. Definitely not.
Or clog your belts up or anything like that.
Yeah, so I talked to the Ultrex guys about it one time about that question, and their day job is actually oil field gaskets. So the product of ours that the stuff we use, their G10 stuff. I mean, they're selling it to us. We're thankful, but
where you get it
they
from?
use it in industry, and so they're using an industrial quality vulcanized rubber, not some gummy, sticky, gooey, whatever. It's high quality stuff. So
has great grip too. The feeling in your hands,
definitely.
Mm-hmm.
As far as where you get it, Jantz, USA Knife Maker. Don't think Pops carries it.
Not yet, no.
It's readily available at knife supply places.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm gonna try some of it.
VMAX, you order your oven yet?
I didn't. I'm trying to find an electrician.
I'll come up there. How about you gonna pay me to come up there? Pay the fuel. I'll come up there.
Pay your fuel.
Pay my gas.
I gotta get somebody who I can get insured with.
Oh, I've run you only need 220, right?
Yeah, that's 20 amp. Yeah, that won't be.
Yeah,
too bad.
you're just pulling 2 wires off of your box.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
The hell, what could go wrong?
Nothing.
That's right.
I've done that many times. Never burned anything.
If I do it, it'll be up to code too. It'll be code. That way you don't have to worry about it. If I did it, it'd be code.
People are shocked when they find out how good of an electrician I am.
Yes, yes. All right, so we're still going to get there. That's not a big deal. Not a big deal.
Right.
We'll get it.
And Don has made the offer. So we're going to some trust issues we're going to work on. Maybe.
Well, really, I'll be honest with you, VMAX. Cliff is a little bit closer than I am, so he probably could ease down there during his hunting trip and get that done for you.
You talking about Chippo?
Chip, I believe you could do that, brother.
I thought you said Cliff.
Oh, Cliff. I'm sorry. I'm thinking Cliff, but it's a Chip.
Don't use my real name. I haven't used Cliff since 1999 and the incident. So I've been going by Chip and now I have to change it. My new name's going to be Spaghetti Margheriti, and I'm going to use that accent. Spaghetti Margheriti. What do you think, VMAX? Spaghetti.
Yeah, it sounds like I want some pasta.
Yeah,
there you go.
Like
Margheriti. So, yeah.
I'll never be able to pronounce that.
Let me help you. But you could pronounce Shegman, Sigmund. What the hell?
I couldn't pronounce that either.
Okay, just don't throw the E on the end of spaghetti. Say spaghetti margheriti.
Spaghetti margheriti.
I will answer that every day of the week. I'll be heading to the courthouse to get that changed here later on this week.
All
Thanks,
right.
Don.
You're
Actually, I'm not going to take the chance that you burn your house down. I'll wire my house, but I don't want you calling me at 3:30 in the morning saying, you know,
No, you
the
don't have to
city,
worry about me calling you.
yeah,
Somebody
I
else
know,
will call you.
I know. And squishy's coming to take my soul.
Hey Mark, hey Mark, you and Chip there can watch the video on YouTube on how to do it and do it right there, man.
That it's
right.
easy to do. It really
It
is
really,
easy
I'm
to.
serious. I mean,
It's yeah.
I
Just turn
respect
off the main.
electricity.
Yeah, turn off the power coming in your main box and just you connect the two wires and all of a sudden you've got 220.
Yep.
But you may not have all the equipment. And if you don't have the confidence in yourself, and I'm not, that's not a degrading comment. I mean, I don't have the confidence to do certain things as well. So if you don't, it's always best to bring in a
Yeah. If you
professional.
don't feel comfortable, don't do it. Just get you.
Yeah.
You can get a guide. I mean, for a couple $100, they can come and run the wire, and
Yeah.
the wire is what's going to hurt you, man. The wire is so. Dear Lord,
But
man.
he's going to keep it in his garage, so he probably doesn't have too far to run that way.
No, I mean, it really just needs to come out of my breaker up into the attic, and the next room over is my laundry room, right? And then it comes back down.
Has your neighbor got a 220 that you can just run an extension over to?
Yeah, that's what I've been doing now, but he doesn't know it. So, but
that's how I get my cable too. So,
that's right.
Hey, and this episode and this segment was brought to you by Majestic Forge. Guys, you can go to majesticforge.com and they manufacture gas forges ranging from 2 to 5 burners with many different forges to choose from. They're sure that you can find the right forge at majesticforge.com. And let me tell you this, if it's good enough for Forged in Fire, it's good enough for you. I've got a Majestic Forge. I want to add another forge. I'll talk about it later, but right now I've got a Majestic Forge and it has performed beautifully for me. Go get you one. Mark, you making any knives?
I need some. Just haven't had a lot of time in there. So last weekend I spent a little more time on those four. I got them. So the blades are all done. I got to start working on handles, except for the fact that I ran out of sandpaper. So I got to make that order. I should have made that order to Phoenix Abrasives probably like 2 weeks ago, but
there you go.
I might run to like the auto parts store and get some whatever they sell wet dry paper there just to get me through a couple of them. And then
I've done that also. It's easy when
right.
you it's like, oh my gosh, I have no 320. What am I going to do? And I've run up to AutoZone and robbed everything in one shelf and pissed everybody else off that wanted 320. But I took what I had and then I went and placed my order at PhoenixAbrasives.com.
Yeah, I think Kyle Royer did a video one time on comparing sandpapers, and one of the ones he compared was, I have to look it up again. It was one of the auto parts stores just carried, just he was going to compare it to just some off-brand, and it actually he rated that as one of the highest, out of not for all the grits, but for certain grits, it was some of the highest, best paper he found. So. He wouldn't have thought it if he didn't do like a comparison. So it was pretty good test.
Well, you can find 3M and some of the other brands at auto parts places, and those are the ones people are using to do auto work. And auto work body finish is all about making sure it's all surface prep. So if you don't have good paper and good techniques, it's going to show in that final paint job. It will. I guarantee.
But
so you've got a little. Go ahead.
I'll tell you what I did. So I listened to I was listening to the last podcast, and I was talking. We got off on a tangent, and I was talking about you're trying to do a little different grinding technique for each of the four knives that I have on my table, which are the same, same build basically. And what I got to that I haven't used before, and this was the first time that I've tried it, was that. Using your table with the drag technique,
right?
I've never done that, with like a push stick, and I've been mostly using my thumb, but putting pressure on different points of the blade to kind of get your bevels to move in different directions, and I'll tell you that has been that was the best ground knife that I've probably done.
Oh, good deal.
So
Good deal.
so yeah, still looking at getting the tilt table, which I think is going to be just great. But
Get
that
you a
was a real.
separate, get you an additional, and you don't have to get one with the rubber wheel. You've already got one. Just get you the basic platen arm, and go ahead and tilt it back to your 50 degrees. So when you take it out, boom, you're ready to go. You're not having to make adjustments. You're going to spend another whatever it costs for that, but you've got a backup for your main platen just in case.
Mm-hmm.
And also, it makes just switching things out much easier. Adds more to it, but trust me. I'm
Have
up to
another
the
one
point.
that's just tilted. It's just tilted
Yeah,
at that degree all the time.
Yeah,
that's
50
right. I
degrees,
keep one
yeah.
tilted at 50 degrees, and then I adjust
Mm-hmm.
my table to it, and it just makes moving around a lot easier. Because as soon as you get through doing that, you're going to want to go back and then having to reset your other platen or set it back to 90 degrees, and all. It just saves time. Matter of fact, I've almost convinced myself I need to go out and get another. Well, guys, if I was going to buy a second grinder for my shop, where would I go? I have a feeling I'd go
I
to
think you like
Ameribraid.
it. Yeah, you like the Ameribraid, so why not go another one?
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, I do know that those two guys, Eric and Kevin over at Ameribraid, the owners, they have developed, I have determined, one of the best grinders. I've sat and played with other grinders. They've got them at our Forge Council and also our knife making guild. And I've used some other friends, and I tell you what, you cannot beat it, Ameribraid. Take a look at one of their 3 packages to see which one's right for you. And when you call Ameribraid, I want you to know you're going to speak with one of the owners, guaranteeing the best service around. But I do need a second machine because I'm getting tired of tilting back and forth. It's great that it can do it, but sometimes it's not just nice just not to have to tilt it back and forth. So you can't beat a second machine. Anybody else here got a second machine? Jason, you got a second machine? No?
I
No, it's
don't.
got
I
that
even sold
horizontal,
off my
right?
I sold off my old one when I got the new one just because I don't have enough space. I'm still working
Right.
out of a 12 by 16 shed. So
yeah, and that's the thing I'm dealing with is space too. But man, I tell you what, it surely would be nice.
It is
Guys,
nice.
I got some mail this week I want to read to you, and it's going to open us up to something else. And it's a nice young lady I met last week out in Texas, and I don't want to give her name, so I'm just going to call her SJ, okay? But you guys can see, because the things I'm about to read are very nice, and it's probably backwards to you, but I don't know if you can see it, but I'll screenshot it to you. Anyway, it says, "Hi, I am SJ. I work at Cavender's in Palestine, Texas. I recently spoke to Chip as he was on a business trip. He's a very nice man, and it was a pleasure to meet him and speak with him as he was looking at some knives at the store I work at. You can definitely tell he knows everything about a knife that I didn't know about." My goodness, you guys aren't hee-hawing and laughing. I figure.
Well, I didn't know if you typed this or did somebody send this in.
I did.
We already know about you, man.
I did not, but I figured that would get you guys hee-hawing. Is like one of the funniest jokes I ever told. But it's a true story.
All right.
And why I took the opportunity to read that, it was very nice of her. And of course, if you know 10% more about something than someone else, you are the expert in the room. So it was very, very, very nice of the young lady. With that being said, I don't want to mention her name on here because she was probably
Typed
less
in her
than 20.
handwriting too.
Yeah, well, it was an email. Come on. So, so I'm at Cavender's and I'm looking around, and they have a certain brand of knife there that I found out that all the Western stores are carrying. And I mentioned something to you guys last week about it, and on some of them it even said Pakistan. So I was asking to see knives, and I'm seeing bone handles that are peeling away from the full tang. I'm seeing wood that's not matching up. I'm seeing, and they're selling these knives. You know, they're selling them for $79 to $100 a knife, and there were some more expensive ones there, but that was the base price. So you figure they're probably getting these from Pakistan for $10, $15, $20 a knife. The distributors marking them up, whatever, and then Cavender's marking them up another 30% or so. So you end up with that particular price. But I was like, there's all these cowboy folk out there buying these cheap ours knives and just aren't really worth a damn. And, even on the edges of them when they weren't looking, I'll tell you, I just kind of put a couple edges together just to see how they were, and they weren't strong edges on them either. So with that being said, how does that make you guys feel? I mean, you got brand name company like Cavender. I guess Cavender's not like they're just a retail place. They're just buying stuff to sell it. But as a knife maker, I just kind of thought, my goodness, these guys are walking around proud of these things, and they're really getting taken.
Yep, that's
Yeah,
sad too.
It shouldn't be, that's the bad piece, right? But I have to say that a lot of the bigger chains, right? Cavender's is a pretty big chain. I'm assuming because I've seen it in almost every city in Texas.
Right.
It seems like, and I mean, profit margin drives a lot of stuff, right? And so I am sure that they are getting, these international knives, or just put that way, fairly inexpensive, and a knife that has some flair, that has some, that they get really cheap, that they probably have really good
Oh,
profit margin on
the
it. So
Damascus was rough and pitted, where the acid ate certain metals deeper than the other, and it was almost like a wavy surface on. You could feel the different grits and
Yeah,
depths.
the tuna cans etch different than the car bumpers. Yeah, that's right.
that's right.
Exactly. And I don't want to beat those guys up
sad.
because
That's sad.
if those guys had good materials over there, we have to admit those gentlemen
Yep.
make some very attractive knives with the tools that they have under the conditions and the lack of safety. I'm
Yeah,
not
I
knocking
agree. I
I'm not
agree.
knocking the gentleman. By gosh, if they had some Alabama Damascus, or you pick the brand, if they had the tools and everything we had, and they were set out as a independent knife maker or whatever, they're beautiful knife makers. But the companies that are selling these and moving them on are just passing on crap.
Yep.
And it bothered me. It bothered me to see that in a store like that.
Let me talk about the economics of that a little bit, just because. So I'm having a knife made in the United States, and I'm not going to, of course, disclose margins and all those things as trade secrets, right? But
Right.
I think it's
You're
impossible.
Wait, you just say you're talking about your brand of knife. You've got
No, I'm
another
talking about
party.
the White Rivers, the
Yeah.
manufactured stuff that might end up in a store. Just as an example.
That's a fry design, so everybody understands.
Yeah.
You're not personally having someone make you a knife. That's what I want to
No, they're taking my design and making those in Michigan. And I say all that to say, even with our best intentions and good work, we can't make $100 knife where anybody can make any profit margin off of it, right? Because the distributor gets a cut and the retailer needs a cut. And I really think that's what's driving it. It's the same as dollar store plastic Chinese crap toys.
Right.
It's just they're trying to hit a price point, and the only way to get a knife sub $100 is to get a crappy one. So a similarly made American knife with quality materials and good specs, is going to be 3 times as much.
Yeah.
I think that's what's driving it. It's not so much their character of they don't understand knives. It's that, the business model hits that price point, and the only way to do that is to go
overseas.
Yeah,
go.
And they're being sold as treasures. Yeah. Hey, Mark.
Well, and I took, on one of my degrees, I took this negotiation class, right? And we had somebody that had like 30 years of auto experience, and he went from salesman up to like regional managers, and and so he talked to us about the whole negotiation of a car. But he started off by talking and said, hey, a car is probably the worst investment that you're going to buy in your entire life. The minute you drive it off the lot, you're going to lose money. He said, so why is somebody going to buy a car? And so whatever decision they make, the most important piece of that decision is if they feel good after they make that decision, and they're happy and
Right.
It feels good, because they're not doing it to make money. They're not doing it. They're doing it to make it feel good, whether that's feel good for practicality, feel good for how it looks, but something about it, they enjoy. Right. And so I would say, as long as, no matter what knife somebody buys, whether they buy something from Walmart, because they saved up their allowance for forever at a flea market, maybe like I did when I was a kid, or they're going out and buying, a multi-$1,000, custom beauty that's going to sit on a shelf somewhere. I think the goal is that if they buy that knife and they are happy with what they bought, then it's a win for them, right? And
Always,
no matter
yes.
where it came from, I think that's I don't know. That's my thought.
So the best answer when somebody, and I've been approached like this, why do you charge so much for your knives? I mean, I can go get this at wherever at Cabela's and or Academy Sports and this, that, and the other. And my answer has always just been, well, I guess my knives are not for you. There are different price points and things that you can buy, and I will tell you, if you buy a Kershaw for $29, Skinner at 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 Academy Sports, it's going to do what you want it to do. But where's that knife going to be a year or two or three or four or five down the road? It's not going to mean anything to you, like something that is made, with true craftsmanship. Now, I'm going a little bit deep. I don't always go into that depth, but it really just kind of sums up that I do tell them. I just feel that my knives are not what you're looking for, and going back to what you're saying, if someone does have pride in what you're buying, because I can remember buying a knife as a kid at a yard sale. My mother bit my rear end because I'd told my aunt my mother said I could have it, and my mother took the knife, and I got it back like 10 years later. But um, yeah, it's the value that someone sees in it. What I hate to see is companies advertising something as the best of the best and going in and hawking it in their stores, getting people to purchase it, and it degrades what we're doing, because Damascus, and I haven't done any Damascus knives, but Damascus is valued in our community. The process of making it, or this, that, and the other, and they get these things that are just cheap and kind of falling apart and won't hold an edge. It is what it is. When I'm selling a railroad spike knife, everybody knows what they're buying. They're buying, a little softer than a rebar, a little
Yeah.
harder than a rebar, excuse me, knife, and it's more for decoration, and be ready to sharpen it quite a bit if you use it readily. If not, use it for decoration, it'll be fine. It's just it affects us, not places like Blade Show, but if you're attending the community, you know, whatever festival days or whatever, and the average guy walks up to you and looks at your knife and is just flabbergasted, because 3 booths down, like I saw at Hartzell days here a a couple weeks ago, there was a tent set up there with a lady who was selling a boatload of Pakistani knives and Damascus and other, basically a step above gas station knives. Um, and she was getting good money for them. And I'm thinking, all of these, rednecks are buying just a bunch of crap, and they're paying a lot of money for it. I told my wife, Nancy, I'm setting up a booth next year just so I can shell shock people. I don't care if I sell a knife at all. I'm just going to shell shock everybody with the prices.
Yeah.
So,
well,
anyway.
I like to add some of that, doing art shows, fine art shows, craft shows. I did. You figure make a pepper mill like you got, Chip.
I love that pepper mill, by the
Okay.
way. It's used daily.
Well, back then when I made that, I sold that because it was exotic wood. I sold that for like $80. Well, $80. Well, people would come in and look at it, and they went, "Man, I can go down to the box store and buy one plastic for $8.99." I mean, and I said, "Well, ease on down there and get you one," you know. But I think with either knives or there's two types of people I see. There's some that like handmade stuff, just like you
Right.
like that pepper mill. It's handmade. I did it. I mean, all of them don't look the same.
Right.
You have people like handmade merchandise, and you got other people, their budget or their finances or whatever don't allow them to spend $80 on pepper mill, so they go to Walmart and buy a plastic one, and then it breaks, and it breaks in like 2 months, and they spent $10, and they go down and buy another one. But within about a year, they bought 3 of them, so they spent $30 plus the gas going down there. So, but yeah, you got a couple different type of people out there, and even in knife making, you got people. Well, I had a guy a while back ask me about that particular knives. He showed it to me. He goes, man, I can get a Damascus blade for. He showed it to me. He works at Lowe's. He works at Lowe's, and
Right.
And I've been knowing him. He works in the electrical department. He knows the stuff, Mark, about electric. Anyway, and he goes, man, I'm looking. He wants to buy one of my knives, but he said, man, I can buy one of these Damascus off of like right here at Amazon. Man, it was $39. And,
I guess my knives aren't for you, sir.
And I looked at him. I said, dude, do you know what you're buying, man? He goes, well, it's a knife. I said, dude, it won't hold edge. He goes, who cares, man? I'm going to put it in a drawer, man. I'm not going to use it. This looks cool. I said, dear Lord.
Probably. Well, my knives, I'm building a display case to hang on a wall. So, and it'll be for my knives or gift knives like I've gotten from Odyssey or Eric. And Jason, VMAX, Don, don't hesitate to,
to
send
fill
me a
that
free
in.
knife. I'm joking. We're going to play Secret Santa this year. Guys, deer camp is going to come early tomorrow, and I'm going to wind a couple things down. Jason's been traveling, but I got to get these in because we mentioned Oleg tonight, Oleg Bashevik with knife-wood.com. I think I haven't seen that his website's back up yet, so you can find knife-wood.com on Facebook or look up Oleg Bashevik. You'll find him in all the knife making forums, and be sure and get some of the beautiful blocks that he makes. Also, Maritime Knife Supply, to get great products and services in Canada and internationally, you need to check out Maritime for great deals and service there as well. Another great knife supplier. Housemade.us. They've got a great 2x72 grinder. You can buy forges and build plans. Housemade Industrial. And you need to check out the Apollo Forge, and that's the other forge I was talking about. I will have an Apollo Forge one of these days, along with my Majestic, but I want that Apollo. And also the Revolution 2x72 grinder. If you're going to build your own grinder, guys, check out Brian Houseworks' Revolution 2x72. And finally, the Rivers Experience. Our very own Eric Rivers from the Rivers Experience. He's going to teach you the finer arts of knife making at the Rivers Experience on YouTube. And the TRE workshop on Facebook. You can join in the fun with community video instruction and online live events. So be sure and check out the Rivers Experience. So, guys, I made sure I got those particular folks in with a shorter show this week, but we got a lot going on. So why don't we just end it right there, and we'll do a quick closeout. Sure. And with that being said, let me just get through the notes real quick here. Questions, comments, product reviews, show and guest ideas, subscribe and email us at the Knives Templars at Yahoo, or DM us on Facebook at the Knives Templars podcast group. You can also visit us at knivestemplars.com to stay up to date with everything we're doing. Again, the episodes are sponsored by the Rivers Experience. Newly added Redeem Steel, knife-wood.com, Ameribraid, Majestic Fords, Pops Knife Supplies, Maritime Knife Supply, Housemade, and Phoenix Abrasives. Go get your Templars 10 discount with Templars 10 at checkout. Our availability is on iHeartRadio, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcast, Anchor, Amazon, and CastBox. And a list of resources, suggested materials, social media handles, and etc. Find us at the Knives Templars podcast on Facebook. Again, our email address is knivestemplars@yahoo.com, and we'd love for you to subscribe to the Knives Templars. Thank you for joining us. We couldn't do this without you.
Tranquility Base here. The Eagle has landed.
Well, guys, y'all were getting all yawny, so I used to say yawny baloney to my kids. So, Jason, you need some
violin guy or
Yawny
a
baloney
singer or something. Yanni,
I think
Yanni.
so.
Yanni.
Yeah, I'm
The
thinking
pan flute.
Yeah.
He had the pan flute.
Yeah, the pan
There you
flute.
go.
Yeah.
So, you're going to get some sleep tonight, and you're headed to the deer tree tomorrow.
I am. We had our first decent cold front. It's supposed to be like 52 degrees on Sunday morning,
Nice.
Saturday
good.
morning. I am
All right.
super, super stoked, especially after a long week of working and traveling and stuff to just go
Oh, that'll be great.
Someplace with no cell signal. Man, it's going to be great.
Good for you.
Sounds
Good for
good,
you.
man. Cool.
Yeah, I'm headed at noon tomorrow, and our deer season hasn't opened yet, so it's going to be skid steers because Weyerhaeuser came in and cleaned out. They thinned out all of the undergrowth in the forest that they've got there, so it's going to be a great deer season when they do that. Gets things moving. So we're going to take a skid steer in there and clean up our parking spaces and moving things around a little bit. They put some new bridges, and we're going to bush hog our fields. We haven't had any rain, and even though we're going to go ahead and plant a couple fields, we're going to wait till we get a nice rain. We're going to go back in there with a disc and get those planted and get them growing up. But man, I'm looking forward to a exciting season of deer, hog, and eventually some turkey again. That's my week.
Going to Hartselle, Alabama.
Good.
What's that?
I'm going to Hartselle tomorrow night.
What's in Hartselle?
I'm coming to see you.
What for? I ain't going to be here, brother.
Oh, no. Muscle Shoals plays Hartselle tomorrow night.
Oh, do you?
Yeah.
That's a long way to come. That's a long way to come to lose and have to drive all the way back home sad and crying.
I know, 45-minute drive.
No,
that's not far.
I will tell you, my sons don't go to Hartselle anymore. My grandkids are too young to care. So good luck to your team. I hope they do well. We got a nice old stadium over there.
VMAX, got a good team.
Yeah, you're on in VMAX too. What's up with you? You got to
go work in the morning.
4:30.
Yeah, 4:30 comes around quick.
Yeah, got to get up and you got to groom that beard with a little beard oil and a little beard holder.
I do. You brought that up. I have some honest Amish.
Well, very good. It's good product. It's good product.
Yeah.
I understand when I used honest Amish, that I didn't get facial breakouts or anything with a long beard. And since I'll be growing my beard back, I've got several canisters of that. Don, what's happening in the world of retirement tomorrow?
Oh man, I'll be getting up around 6:30, like normal. And
that's something we spend our whole lives wanting to sleep late. And as I've gotten older, even on weekends, I'm like awake at 5:59, going, "Here we go again. Here we go again."
Kind of like don't burn daylight, man. Let's go.
That's right. So, well, I'll be back home Sunday, and y'all did such a wonderful job podcasting. I'm going to check the volume levels. I don't think I have hardly any editing, if any, to do tomorrow. So I'll probably even get this launched tomorrow before the weekend, so I can listen to some darn good podcast.
Yeah, man.
Driving down to deer camp. So with that being said, I guess what do we do now? What's the last thing we do?
Say goodnight.
Listen to the pig.
Well, you got to say goodnight first.
Oh, we can do that.
Have a great week.
Yeah,
Buenas noches. We'll see you next time.
Brought to you by Porkhouse Productions. Oinky, oinky, oinky.
that was for our buddy Otis here. I'm sure he'll appreciate that.
He likes the pig.
That's fun.